Guess what? That's who's gonna win from now on is billionaires. Sorry to break it to you.
I don't think so. I
For a while,
I don't think so.
money buys things, including politics, one form or another.
If you paid attention to politics, I think you would have an absolutely different opinion based on the most recent additions to Congress and the Senate. That the trend is absolutely changing directions.
I just
Completely changing directions.
until society completely changes as a whole, money buys you things.
Money does buy you things, but a lot of politics are going to be taken out of money real soon. A lot of money.
I honestly think all it's going to do is, like, whatever law, doesn't matter what the law they're going to write. It really doesn't.
Good or bad?
They're just going to find another loophole somewhere. That's what people with money do.
Says the guy that doesn't vote.
Let me ask you this: what if they had like a salary cap, kind of like
That's why I don't vote, for that reason.
who's got the most money wins?
That's
I
an
think-
ignorant reason not to vote because
How
part of the problem is
would
only
it change
40% of the 40% of the registered voters show up to vote. If it was more like 60% or 70% or 80% of the registered voters, we wouldn't be having these problems.
I don't
I'm
think.
just gonna hand you my ballot.
That's illegal. Don't do that. That is very illegal. I will not accept it. I will show you like a kindergarten teacher shows his students how to fill in the boxes.
I mean, isn't it better not to vote than vote ignorant?
That's a catch-22. And honestly, I'm 50-50 right in the middle. I would rather you actually sit and read a little bit of the voter pamphlet and say, I could vote for this guy for this reason, even if you don't do very much.
Who puts that in there? Who puts that information in there? And how accurate is that information?
Voter pamphlets that come out are non-biased.
They have to have some sort of bias. If it's written down, somebody had to write it.
Do you know how this works?
You can't just say something gets written down without some sort of bias.
Yes, you can. That's why we have non-biased organizations. There's no money put into the voter pamphlet.
Such a thing.
They're not sponsored by any corporation or company.
But they have their own to write down anything, to put out anything. You have to have some sort of opinion.
No,
That's
you
a bias.
don't. Okay, so everything that you've read and everything that you've watched that our bodies are made out of star matter is all opinion based.
Based on scientific
Opinion.
studies
Opinion.
that are done that are confirmed by other people that do the same types of studies to try to prove those things wrong. The whole point of science is the scientist tries to prove other things that have already been proven as wrong until enough people come to the conclusion that they can't find something else. So basically a scientist is always trying to prove other people's things wrong.
You're completely avoiding the question.
Like, the whole point of science is a scientist trying to prove other scientists wrong.
You know there's a thing called political science too, right?
Of course there is.
Which
I
is
know
usually
this.
pre-law. Just saying.
Yes, and they're trying to prove.
Which is
people are the same thing.
non-biased platform.
Which you take at the university for free.
But they come in with bias to try to prove something wrong.
Nola Wall says media controls what people think, and there is a lot of truth to that. Fox is hating on the Dems, and everyone else is biased towards Republicans. There's some truth to that. There's numerous media outlets on both sides of the fence.
Fox really loves the Republican Party. I'll give you that much.
Well,
Man,
I mean, look who they're owned by.
I don't know.
This is why I don't vote, because it's just a bunch of biased information.
You can do your own research, you know.
But where's that research going to come from? Biased things.
Okay.
Like, I don't trust any of what any of them are saying.
But you trust the dumb fucks that are telling you that your body is made out of stardust.
Yeah, because they're a lot more intelligent than a lot of the politicians.
Do you know their IQs?
Just watch the question. It's like, go watch them ask questions about Google. To go ask like when senators are asking ignorant ass stupid questions.
And do you know why those senators are sitting in their chairs?
Because they had money that put them there.
Dipshits like you say, I don't need to vote because my vote doesn't matter.
No, because money
That's
got
exactly
them
why.
there.
40% of registered voters vote, and that's why we have dipshits
And many of
sitting
them
in
are
these fucking
morons.
chairs.
I got a question.
The vast majority of Americans are fucking idiots.
Oh, the guy
The ones
in the
that
hat.
don't vote because voting doesn't matter.
The
Bigger
other guy in
idiots.
the hat. Oh, why are you wearing a tie today?
I already tried to ask him that. He didn't want to answer.
Do you not have chest hair for your boyfriend to pull on when you're having sex, and then you got, your girlfriend or whatever? I don't know you that well. Why do you have a tie on today? Let me just start back up. Why do you have a tie on today?
Because it's on my neck.
Did you tie it or is it a clip on?
Dwayne,
Come on,
shut
show
the
me the
fuck
back.
up. Science
It's
is
not-
backed
I
by
tied it.
facts,
You
and
tied it?
IQ from a
Clip on?
nuclear
I can't just
physicist
go like
is off the
this?
charts.
No.
That'd be impressive. If you had
Not
a clip
always.
on. I'd laugh. I'm
Sometimes
laughing
agree
anyways,
does
but
too.
it would be. I might pee myself if you had a clip on.
And
I know how to tie a tie.
there are plenty of
Prove it.
political science majors that have huge IQs too.
I know how to tie a tie.
We're comparing apples and fucking kumquats.
That's only a single Windsor. It's nice, so it's sharp. It's a little bit different than I tie mine, but it's a nice tight knot. I'm actually impressed with that knot, actually.
Dude,
Things in
obviously.
space are backed up by science. Look at what science told us about things in space 30 years ago.
It's not quite amateur.
And we're always trying to prove them wrong to advance our knowledge.
Yeah, we should be doing that politically too.
2 plus 2
It's
is always
ignorant
2.
not to.
God, I thought I was good at math.
So go make a change.
2 plus 2 is
I-
always
I don't think anyone
do my part.
appreciates my opinion upon anything political, so why would I give my opinion upon what I'm saying?
Since when did you start caring about what people thought?
My point is, why would my opinion matter if nobody gives a fuck about my opinion?
Who said they don't give a fuck about your opinion?
No one gives a fuck about my opinion when it comes to political things.
Says who?
Says everybody I've talked to because they don't give a fuck.
Anytime you have an
Because
opinion,
I have an opinion, I
fucking
get shut-
love it.
You get pissed off every time I have an opinion.
I don't get pissed off. Every
Yes.
time you actually have an opinion because you prove that you pay attention to something, even if I disagree, I fucking love it. Every time you said Trump is a fucking idiot, I get a hard on.
I know you do.
But if I said, what if I said there's parts of
You
Trump
gotta flip the cushion.
that I liked? You get
I
pissed.
know there's parts of Trump that you like,
So
and I
but
can
my
respect that.
But my opinion doesn't matter
It
because
does.
I feel like my opinion doesn't matter. When
I feel like
it
mine
comes to-
doesn't either.
Well,
So that's
maybe,
a valid opinion.
Maybe
My
that's
opinion
maybe
is no
that's the
opinion,
root of
it's
the
good
problem
opinion.
that you feel like your opinion doesn't matter.
No opinion without
I
an
feel
opinion
like
is a
my
great
opinion definitely matters.
When it comes to politics,
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like my opinion doesn't matter whatsoever. So why would I give it? Why would I give it a hard? Why would I vote something? Give a hard opinion via a vote for something that I don't know enough about, and I don't feel like that I would ever know enough about to give a valid opinion on it.
It would definitely not be hard for you to know enough.
I don't spend enough time reading it or going and interviewing people, or
You don't have to interview
Does
people.
anyone?
I don't trust what the media says. So what? How can I make any kind of choice on who I think should be in office of any level if I don't believe what any kind of media that's so
Do
basically
you believe what the manual of this mixer tells you?
because
Okay,
I can
let me ask you
physically
this.
manipulate it. Yes.
Let me ask you this. Okay.
So if
out
I
of-
could spend 8 hours interviewing every person I could vote for and getting a sense of who they were, then I would feel comfortable voting. But I can't do that
Let me ask you this, Paul.
Why not?
Paul, since you were
because they don't have time to listen to me ask dumb questions.
No, but you can go to forums. There's plenty of them.
But
For
how many
every
people do
political
that?
candidate.
Nobody goes.
But those aren't
They're
those candidates.
full. Have you been to one?
I've never been to one. 'cause
Nobody goes.
'cause
That's
nobody
part
goes.
of you're
I-
part of ignorant America. You
No,
dumb
most
fuck.
people don't
To sit there and
go.
say nobody
What
goes.
percentage
I
of-
went to numerous last year.
But what
for our
percentage of the
local.
voters do? It's not even recordable. It's probably less than 1%.
They
of the
are
voters.
recordable.
Well,
They're very recordable.
Well, less than 1% of registered voters have ever gone to a forum. Fact.
Yeah, the smart people that give a fuck. To sit there and say nobody goes, that's the stupidest fucking statement I've ever heard come out of your mouth.
Okay, a very small percentage
These
goes.
things are standing room only.
I don't know they are, but not enough people go to give a fuck. It's not many people go. You go because you like to be informed and educated on this stuff, but most people are just going about their daily lives and they don't care. It's like that's why the media persuades.
And
the vote
that's
so
why we
much.
have people asking people like Mark Zuckerberg why LinkedIn doesn't have their Facebook information.
I know, right?
That's
Because of
why we
dumb
have
fuck.
idiots on Capitol Hill, because not enough people care.
I think
Too
it's-
many
I
people
the
think
voting
my
system
vote
is-
doesn't matter.
I think the voting system is broken. So broken that you end up with that. That's the problem.
How is the voting? It's
we should
really
do a poll
simple.
on the poll.
You
should really say
to run a country, to make laws and run a country. You shouldn't be of average IQ. You should be at least 130 or above. If your IQ level is not that high and you are not well informed about and keeping up with today's technology and society, then why the fuck are you in there?
So out of our cast members on the show, you're saying Lackey should be the one that represents their
I'm
country.
just saying.
I disagree.
He's got 145 IQ.
I don't think everyone should have an equal vote. I don't think people that have less than 100 IQ should be able to vote because they're too stupid to make broad enough decisions based on what's best for people in general. I don't think they're intelligent enough.
Well, then let's take out all of the.
If I had less than 100 IQ, I'd be like, no, I shouldn't vote because I'm too fucking stupid.
You guys
I
let
feel
me
like
know,
I'm
let
too
me know when
But you're
I'm
dumb.
allowed.
But most people that are like an 80 IQ are too dumb that they think they're smart.
I feel like I'm
you ever
too
notice
dumb.
that? Dumb people actually think they
No, I'm
are
too-
smart because they're not smart enough. They're not smart enough to realize they're dumb.
Well, yeah, that's the part of the problem. But I also feel like I'm
I've
too
seen it.
dumb to vote myself.
Right. I feel that they should have a poll on the poll. Like, okay, how many voters out there that have voted spend at least a half hour, 45 minutes of their own time researching their political party and their campaign and the person they voted for? How many people are watching the news and were influenced by the news? And how many people were influenced by their friends, family, and relatives or coworkers around the water cooler on who they should vote for? People are influenced by other people when it comes to these elections.
Usually stupid people.
But what? How many people are actually making the polls?
The poll, I mean, I don't give a shit what the polls say. Polls, no.
But how many people? And I'm not debating it. This is just a flat, bare, raw question. Like, how are people influenced on their voting and who they vote for?
They're-
Another subscriber.
they're-
Thanks for subscribing to FunkShop TV.
Good looking.
We have another subscriber? Sweet.
I just don't think people are.
Hey, what's up, Alex? Glad you're okay, man. Hit me up, bud. That's my buddy Alex from worried about you, bud. Thinking about you, man. Miss ya.
Juice Box Heroes.
Hope you're okay, my friend. Tell your father hi for me. So yeah.
So for those of you that say I don't trust media on either side, the voters pamphlet that comes out that is delivered to every registered voter is not cited. It's non-biased. It takes the facts from what the politician's own platform is, puts them all in a newspaper format. There are various questions, like on controversial topics once in a while, like where do you stand on abortion, etc., etc.
We'll do Alex.
It's very, very easy to see where most people that are running for office voted on the last ballot measures. If you want to know which way a certain person voted or stood, what platform they took on a controversial issue that means something to you, it is really, really easy to find that information. So simple.
Can you whisper my juice box hero on my phone?
But
number?
my problem with that is like I don't trust the politicians themselves saying it.
I understand that. I respect that. I can respect
So
that.
that's like literally the very, I don't know if that's the origin point, but like it's one of the origin points of my distrust. So that's one reason why I say I don't feel comfortable voting for someone unless I can sit down and have a long form conversation one-on-one with that person for me to personally assess their character. It's easy to make it's easy, and I know that's not possible. That's not possible for them to do that. I'm not dumb. I understand that, but to go to a debate for any kind of thing where it's like a public thing, there's a level of performance being put on, right?
I get
yeah.
not always.
I mean,
not always, but I understand what you're saying.
They're putting across a certain persona that they want people to believe in them. They're not going to come up there.
Not always. I will disagree with that.
But they're not going to be like they're not going to be like they would be at home with their family. You know what I mean?
Not always.
It'd be
Because
super rare. I mean, there might be a few.
You're right. You're right. It is very rare. I understand what you're saying. It is very rare, but you cannot
But
say
how can I assess their truthfulness to general softball like sometimes they're softball questions, sometimes they're not. But they know that generally what the public is going to ask them. I mean, they're prepped for these conversations. That's what they have. The people behind the whatever they're fucking called that help them with their campaign, right?
Most local, unless they've been the repeat offenders, like Jamie Herrera Butler, most local politicians that are running, either Democrat or Republican, do not have a huge cabinet like you think of.
I'm not. I'm not talking about
Congress,
like
most
local.
people running for Senate. The seats that are actually important to us, the seats that will make a difference for us, most of those people don't have a staff like you envision. I used to think the same way 5, 6, 7 years ago. I really did. Until I started getting more involved and paying attention and realizing that the people that are running for Congress and the people that are running for Senate are a lot more like everyday people than we assume. And I think part of the big failure in this country when it comes to voting is we're raised from youth to see voting as something that is way up on a pedestal. Like the leaders of our country are here, and we the people are down here, and we put them up on. We envision a congressman or a senator having a huge staff around them, and it's not like that. It's really not like that at all.
Well, they usually have at least a few.
They have a few once they get to that level, but a lot of those the people that are staffers on that level are appointed by the party. They're paid for out of party funds, not necessarily the staffer themselves. A lot of them are chose by the staffer themselves, but there are a lot of people in every single district that it really does not take that much attention to be able to know whether or not they're bullshitters or not. Like,
well, here's a weird thing that just goes to show like how fucked up the general voter is. Like we had a person with literal like I don't know if they had Down syndrome, but they were like pretty damn close to that. I want to say in Missouri or Alabama or someplace like over there. I don't remember exactly. And this was like 12 years ago ish. They got voted into Senate because they had the money laying around to fill out the thing, and and they didn't do any like promotion or anything. Their name on the ballot though was a more recognizable name. It was like Johnson or something versus like some name that sounded not American, basically.
Right.
So just based on that alone, the stupid American voter who's unintelligent and doesn't do any research votes in somebody that's mentally challenged and can't freaking do the job. Yeah. I don't know if the name was Johnson, but it was something along that.
I get your Johnson Smith,
So
Michaels.
Don't you think
where do you think that happened at?
I don't remember. It was
just out of curiosity.
Some East Coast state. I don't remember.
Like West Virginia.
It was, and I don't remember the details because it was a while ago. And
obviously, it's a small populated area.
But it was like for a state senate. It was like a state senate thing. It wasn't like
or a Congress.
Yeah, it was big enough to be a big problem. And they had to like talk that person. They had to talk that person to be like, you don't want, like, you shouldn't do this job kind of thing.
Right.
Like they eventually didn't do the job.
The guy's got Tourette's.
No, it was like way worse than that. Like he had literally some sort of mental disability.
I think it'd be great if he had Tourette's though.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be a very good global leader.
I mean, it would have been better than what he actually had. I don't remember, but it was like something much more serious than Tourette's.
Maybe like Asperger's or
but like whatever it was a very like
schizophrenia maybe.
I want to say it was like mental retardation, but it might not have been like
maybe not quite an extra chromosome, but enough to
it was a big problem and
enough to be not.
But the point is, it's like we somehow voted this person in. And
no, we did. We did.
But as a popular,
we here in Vancouver, Washington, did not touch this fucker.
But like the same thing could have happened here, or could happen here. The same kind of thing is my point. Like
I hope not. We have measles, and I hope that's the worst we are known for. Not for voting a mentally retarded person into office.
It's just
I'd like to think we're actually one of the smarter states and towns in this country. But
that's the kind of thing that I look at and I go, what the fuck? Like, why? If that can happen, what does it fucking matter if I vote?
Well,
if somebody with Down syndrome can get voted in because the general population just looks at a name, they might as well just pull it out of a hat or pick the color or whatever arbitrary thing. And that's like how so much of the general population in this country thinks, because they're more care about how many likes they get on Facebook for their selfie they took in the bathroom while their kid is playing with their used tampons in the corner, not giving a fuck. Like, this is the kind of mentality the vast majority of the country has. And unfortunately, so and this is kind of why, like, these most of the people don't deserve to be successful, because they care more about doing this than they give a shit about anything of importance or success or growth or knowledge or anything. So that's where I find a very big disconnect between, even though I find myself as a pretty smart person and I pride myself on learning things. Like, for years, I've had a rule where I need to spend an hour a day learning things, period. I spend an hour a day. So I try to better myself and more intelligence. When I intelligently look at it, there's so much lost in, like, yes, I know my vote counts. It counts as one vote.
Why can't you spend an hour a day paying attention to who you should vote for so we don't end up with retards in office?
Maybe because I think about this. This is why I don't want to vote, because I don't feel like it's a useful use of my time, because I don't think it's going to matter. Based on how I look at things and how the knowledge that I have of the system and how, like, so when you vote on the primaries,
that's part of the mentality that gives us a state where we only have 40% of registered voters voting.
But I think a lot of people feel that way. I feel like there is a lot of people that either feel that way, or people don't care, or they're too busy. The cost of living is so high, they don't have time. They're slaving away to trying not to be homeless and dying in the streets of the cold, like in Chicago or other places around the country. They're worried more about that than them making, I don't have time to go down. I got to work for 2 more hours to pay my bills so that I can eat and then my kids don't starve to death.
Well, that's why there's a bill by some very smart people in the House and Senate right now
I
to
hope
make voting
things
day a
change.
national holiday.
But the reality is the society, the halfway intelligent people are stuck between a rock and a hard place in what they need to do. Like, and nobody can agree on fucking anything. So
we're not necessarily meant to agree on everything, though. I mean,
maybe we should.
Huh?
You say that again, DJ Biggz.
Well, between the three of us, I'm sure, like, if there's controversial, if we took the top 10 controversial subjects in America,
I heard that,
and put them all on the table between the three of us, we're going to have a lot
you
of
and anyone that's not perfectly in tune with you are going to disagree with. I'm just saying that out loud. You disagree a lot when it comes to politics, and that's okay.
Absolutely,
though.
I'm very
that's
passionate
okay.
about
That's
it.
just your personality and where your heart and your passion is. So I respect it.
But this doesn't have anything to do with politics, Tom. I said the 10 most controversial subjects.
Right.
Okay. Talk abortion. Talk about gun rights. Talk
Capital
about
punishment.
Basic constitutional rights or wrongs.
Right.
And we put them all on the table. We're going to have some severely conflicting interests and opinions.
That's why in my daily life I don't really pay much attention to politics, because I like to be agreeable with everyone, just like the cast members of Fox News.
Well, to me, that's cast members of Fox
News.
They
all agree with each other. These assles are.
Oh, you mean they agree with each other?
Yeah,
they're
they're stroking each other's egos.
They're
the whole
all very
show.
like-minded. They're all very like-minded.
And they just
have
pretend
to be on
they're
the
like giving each other like candies underneath the fucking broadcast booth.
Fox,
like right under here.
Fox is
like
owned
right
by Republicans,
here,
so
giving each other handies because they love each other so much. I like Fox. But
Fox is funded by the people like the Koch brothers that are putting big dollars behind Republican campaigns.
Well, yeah. So
because it benefits them.
They're stroking each other.
That's.
I think the other news channels are a little bit more
I think
of a platform. You know, they got
in our lifetime that is never going to change. Like to some degree or another. I'm sure
I absolutely disagree with that.
So following Fox News,
I think there'll be ebb and flow, unless society something super drastic happens in society. I don't think the top
something drastic has been happening for like the last.
I think
5
it's going
to
to
10
take.
years.
It's going to take much more. I'm talking another world war.
Oh, I don't think so.
I think it's going to take a complete collapse of society for us to like go to we're at a elevated point to where the top higher than top 1% of people are
The 1% of the 1%.
are
Yes.
not going to give up their
If you want
power.
off camera, just say so.
No, it's just this chair keeps sliding down and my back hurts right now. I'm going to have to leave in just a second because this chair keeps falling and I keep fighting
Put
with
your
my back.
foot on the right side.
That's why I turned around like this to hopefully go.
It's not the chair; it's the floor.
It definitely is the floor, but
I'm
go
gonna.
to the stable chair or switch sides again.
I just
But
don't.
yeah,
I don't
I'm
think
gonna
the
leave.
top 1% is ever going to willfully. The top 1% of 1% are not willfully gonna give up their power and money.
They're not going to willfully, but if the
And then another
the
thing,
bottom 99% bands together,
technically, like,
we can overthrow them.
I don't think so.
Guys, it's been fun.
Have fun, Tom.
I have nothing to contribute to this conversation, so I'm going to quit while I'm maybe a par. Or just
Isn't that 90% of our conversations, Tom?
Yeah, but when it comes to politics, I got nothing for you guys.
Isn't that 90% of our topics, Tom?
95, get it right.
Okay.
You guys have a good weekend, and I guess we can talk about the Super Bowl tomorrow. Love you guys.
Who's talking about the Super Bowl tomorrow? The Super Bowl's not till Sunday.
We're going to talk about predictions.
Tomorrow? Are we going live tomorrow? I'm not. You can hit up.
I'm going to go rescue people from blue hair ladies.
All right.
Nolan, apparently he's rescuing people from you.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I just
confused.
I don't see any like drastic changes in that realm. I really don't. I think
And I understand that. I understand that, and I respect that. I definitely do. And I want to apologize for being such an asshole when I make the statements like you're fucking ignorant, because I don't mean you're fucking ignorant. You are absolutely far from ignorant, and I know this. It's that mindset to me that is ignorant.
but there's a reason why I have that mindset.
No, I get it.
like I
understand
logically
it.
think about it. Like I don't just like
No, I understand it. I absolutely understand it. And like I've said time and time again, I respect your opinion on it. I respect why. I personally, would I rather have somebody not vote if they're not willing to figure out why they're voting a certain way? Yes. That is absolutely true. If the 60% of registered voters who did not vote didn't vote because they didn't pay any attention to it and they felt like they didn't want to just fill in the blanks and shove their envelope in a ballot, I can respect that. The problem is when it comes to local congressional races, it does not take very much effort to pick somebody that you can stand behind. And then once you do, you pick somebody that you can stand behind, and if they are elected, you start paying attention to the process more because you pay attention to what that person you voted for or the opponent that beat the person you're voting for, the issues they start standing on. You start paying a little more attention, and it does not take much effort at all. It really doesn't. I feel because we live in America, it's an American responsibility and a right and a privilege to pay enough attention to at least cast your ballot.
yeah, I can't spend
And to me, it's irresponsible not to.
the number of hours a week that would be required to what's going on through the process of like afterwards. Like sure, you can form an opinion on a small amount of information and make a vote and hope it's for the best. That's fine. Like I don't have a problem with that. It's the voters that don't pay attention to anything, that base their like votes on willy-nilly nonsense, which is the majority. It really is. I honestly feel like it is.
I have to disagree because I paid attention to the voting process so much over the last 15 years. I have to absolutely
So you can
disagree with
start
that.
voting when you're 18.
Yeah.
And look at just so many of the 30 and under crowd. I mean, there's smart ones in there, but I think the majority, like you just look at the way that age group behaves. Majority of them is dumb. They
I
don't
have to
have
disagree
common
with that, too.
sense.
A lot of them are. There's a lot of validity to that, but I also think that as we progress as a society, younger and younger people are being tuned in. Facebook, social media is tuning a lot of young people in. And I'm not saying that's all 100% correct, because there's a lot of bullshit that's being spread around on social media.
And that's another problem. It's like, because social media is so big and that's the most prevalent place we get most of our information as society now, really, especially in America, I think.
Right.
Especially in populated areas.
It's definitely contributed to
Like
the Rams butting horns.
Well, that and like just.
But in the same token, it's got a lot younger people actually paying attention.
But are they paying attention to the right things? Meaning,
my 15-year-old niece was listening to political debates at 15. I didn't start listening to those things until I was over 30.
But are they being influenced by wrong information that's being made and manufactured for numbers of reasons?
As much as it may not seem like it, I think the younger generation, the fact that they are paying attention, number one, is a step in the right direction. Number two, I do think that they are way better than our generation and generations before us at looking at different sides of the spectrum and figuring out the common ground.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about directly falsified information to make another, whatever the subject.
Well, that's my point. Like, if they see something and they're like, they question it, they're going to research it to find out if there's validity behind it.
I don't feel like most do, though. I think look at viral videos.
Most may not yet, but
on
way
Facebook.
More do than 20 years ago. Way more. I guarantee
yeah,
that.
Obviously, but I
That's
think
progress.
the majorure, sure, but
we're going
it's
in the right
dropping.
direction. That's my
it's
point.
a cup in an ocean. I think at this point,
I don't think so.
I think if you look at so many viral videos, people there's so many people that just believe things that just aren't true by fakery of either just careful editing, whether it's completely where it's cut in a certain way to give a certain look, and people and it's being shared off of a page that they liked or they may agree with opinions on. They're like, oh, they're sharing it. It must be good information. They might just be sharing it because they think it's going to get them more clicks as far as the page or the website or wherever. And that's been done, there's been many stories shared through sites, not necessarily Philip DeFranco, because I think he's done his due diligence as far as a company and everything, from everything I can tell. And that's one reason I respect what he says more than
Duane.
just about anybody else news related on the internet that I can think of off the top of my head. Because he seems to be the first person they'll go, we fucked up on this. We apologize. Because they have a research staff and they try to do a very good job of weeding out the bullshit from then trying to give both sides.
I see Rachel Maddow doing that all the time.
And that's, I don't follow her. So if I did,
I get it.
But it took me time. It took me a couple of years of watching Philip DeFranco for me to personally gain that respect for that platform.
Right.
I wouldn't just tune into Philip DeFranco as a new viewer and I wouldn't expect anybody who is intelligent to tune into Philip DeFranco and expect whatever he said to be fact. Like, oh, he must be great because I told you. Like, if I said to some random person, you should watch Philip DeFranco, everything he says is fact and God. Like, you should take everything he says as truth. Doesn't matter what. And for them, if they did that, I would find them to be unintelligent, even if it came from me. But my
unless people are like, you know what, Biggz is a smart guy, and I know he pays attention to politics, so whatever he says, I'm going to vote for. I respect that too. I'm just kidding.
I mean,
Absolutely
whatever.
Kidding.
But I mean,
and I don't know if you've heard me or not, but so many times I've said, look, I will not fill out your ballot for you. I will, if you ask my opinion on why I am voting for somebody, I'll tell you. But it is up to your. Like, you know how important it is to me that people vote.
Yeah.
But bottom line, I still will not allow anybody to just vote a certain way because I did. Ever. Ever. I would rather you not place your ballot. That is very true.
So it's like, I have yet to find any politician, watching any politician, that I can come to think of that, like, I honestly felt that I trusted what they were saying. Or that they had... I mean, there's been politicians that I've saw that I've been like, I trust them more than the average politician.
Right.
But like, I can't think of a single one really in my lifetime that I've been like, I think they honestly are 100% trying to do the right thing. Whether I agree with their specific thing or not, whatever a certain subject might be.
Right.
But I have yet to ever see a politician that gave me the impression that I could trust
Hey, sugar.
that they weren't being bought off in some way or fashion, some fashion or another. Whether, there's a million ways you could pay off somebody,
Right.
whether it's just money or promise of a job, this or that. And so it would be,
It's just
for
stupid, man.
myself, it would be disingenuous to myself to say, I want to vote for this person because I think they're the best for the job. Now, I can honestly say, like, this person is lesser of two evils. I could be looking at two evils and go, well, they're both pretty fucking shitty, or five evils, they're all fucking shitty. In my opinion, in a way that they come off to me, which one is the less shitty person? Sure. Does it mean I trust them or I think that they're the best for the job? Fuck no.
Next time we have a race for Congress, will you go to a town hall with me?
I'll listen to what they have to say.
Okay.
Like, I never say I won't, but like, it doesn't mean that like I'm gonna be like, oh
No,
yeah, they're.
I don't expect you to.
yeah.
I just so you can witness the number of people that do pay attention, the number of people that do care, and so you can see their demeanor. Because when you get into a level where there's something super controversial or a trending issue on Capitol Hill, and you have certain politicians that are getting in front of a camera talking about, well, the Republicans did this or the Democrats did this, and they start
blame
pointing
game?
fingers.
I don't
Yes.
get fuck that.
I understand that, and I'm with you there. That bothers me too. That bothers me in a big way. Now, somebody that steps up and just states the facts without mentioning what so-and-so did on the other side of the fence, I can respect that. Somebody like Jay Inslee, I can respect that.
I also can't just take like somebody going, if they don't give any kind of reference to where the facts are, if they're just like, this is fact because I said it's fact, that doesn't give me anything.
Right.
But if you can be like, these are the reference points, at least give me some direction of reference points. So if I don't believe you, I can go check those, and hopefully those reference points will lead me to others. Great.
Right.
So one of the things that like is so over the years of like just watching, for example, documentaries or any kind of content that's had the vast majority of the content that I've seen of politicians and stuff is them looking like fucking either uneducated third graders. So like, yeah, no, I don't want to listen to that because that's not going to help. That just,
So
I think I'm losing my brain
You have
cells.
been watching a lot of Fox News.
No, I don't watch
I'm
any
just
news. But like, if I'm
Making it
watching,
funny.
yeah. For example, if I watched a documentary, here's one example, like Bigger, Faster, Stronger, the documentary Bigger,
Okay.
Faster, Stronger, as well as some of the other documentaries he's done. Did we just lose live? Maybe it was
Oh,
just
we
my...
did. Why are we
Nope.
reconnecting? What the shit?
Network error.
Do you have a connection error over there too?
Yeah. Man, it says we have 6 viewers in there, but we're not streaming yet.
I think we're back. Are we back? Connection buffered, apparently.
There, yeah, there we go. So, like in the documentary, or the documentaries that not Mark Bell, how's his name? One of the Bell brothers, I forget his first name. That's done one, did Bigger, Faster, Stronger. He did one on did Prescription Thugs. That was another great one. Prescription Thugs. Like in many of those, he's gone and talked to congressmen and congresswoman about different subjects that he was talking about and laws and stuff. And he even helped create laws regarding prescription drugs on the internet and like through Craigslist and stuff. He was one of the people that he was doing it himself. Like he was buying just random drugs off of because he was addicted to them while he was making the film. But these politicians in the interviews, many of like 99% of them that were on the shows are complete morons asking stupid questions. Like, here's a perfect example.
Kind of like the Zuckerberg interview on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, but even worse, I think. Like the person that made was in charge of making steroids a Scheduled 1 drug, right? He was one of the people that interviewing the Mark McGuires and he was like the face of it. Okay. He was in charge of everything. Bell asked him,
part of the investigation committee.
Yeah, he was a part of that and everything else, and asked him, "What's the legal age of drinking?" He didn't even know. He had to ask his assistant what the legal age was. And then he asked him, like, what cigarettes were. And he thought those were the same thing. Like, he was just asking him basic questions. Like, basic questions that children know. And he was getting those wrong. And there's so many of these that, through the years, I'm not saying all of them are like that, but there's a lot of them. A lot of people in Congress that are completely disconnected because they have money and they don't live in the real world. They live an isolated life, generally speaking, a lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And they're the ones making the law. Like, when they speak, I'm like, you couldn't tell me what the legal age of drinking is. I at this point in time, if you can't answer basic questions that a sixth grader can answer, I don't care what your opinion is on anything.
No, I understand.
There's a lot of them. I'm not saying that all of them. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not generalizing all of them. But that's why I see so many of them, and there's very few that come forward, and that, unfortunately, the smart ones are the ones that, and I have seen some clips of smart ones saying some smart things and being very and I couldnn't name them. I don't remember them by name, but I've seen some that have pointed out things that are like, all right, guys, you guys are fucking idiots, basically. Like, he was saying it more professionally, but basically calling other Congress people morons because of the stupid questions they're asking.
Jay Inslee.
Whoever. Yeah.
Jay Inslee is a very good example of that.
So, and those they have a brain, they can think bigger picture.
Yes.
And they're reasonable. You know, and those are the kind of people that we need, but none of those people generally make enough noise for the general population to take notice of them. And so you kind of end up with this weird thing that we almost need famous people to be in these positions, in a sense. People that are reasonable yet still captivate audiences. If you aren't captivating audiences, it comes down to dollars behind the scenes. So you need to be able to manage that part of it, because that's still going to be there. Like, there's still going to be, at least for the foreseeable future, there's still going to be big business and dollars behind them trying to manipulate things. And when people get into power, they want what do they want more? More of power. So if people are willing to pay them for it,
I think that's
I'm not saying everyone.
That's kind of a bold.
But generally speaking, I think
it's a minority more than a majority, honestly.
But I'm not obviously in the general population. You're right.
The reason I say that is because if you're bored sitting on the shitter and you have your phone in your hand, just Google search the latest congressional swearing in, and the difference, You're
talking about when they were swearing in on other things besides the Bible? Is that you're talking about?
When they swore into their position.
Yeah, and they were using other religions and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at the diversity pool,
and that's good. That's a good thing.
Most of the new ones, most of the new generation, is there because they sincerely want to represent the people.
And I hope
financial purpose.
And I hope that they feel that way. and that is their goal, and I hope that stays that way.
Right. Me too. Me too.
But I also know that most people, I think, given a little taste of power, and if they like it and they don't have self-discipline in other areas of their life and other mental self-discipline to resist those kind of things. So, like, it would be hard if Coca-Cola or whoever came in and said, we're going to give you $100 million if you vote this on these things this way over the next whatever, and you kind of want you to try to convince your buddy over here to do the same and get, let's rub some shoulders, whatever. A lot of people would have a hard time being like, no, I'm going to stick to my guns. So, I mean, and what they're afraid of is they're going to lose their job that way if they stick to their guns. So they have to have the mental self-discipline to know to do the right thing and continue to work hard to keep their job and convince the people to keep them there, because they know that company that was offering them money to vote a certain way or pressure to make a bill, whatever it might be, that they're going to try to get somebody else in there to replace you to do the same thing. So it's going to be for the foreseeable future of our lifetimes. I don't see it completely going away. There's always going to be this bad force being forced by large corporations so that they can keep making the most profit as they can. But then you also have to look at it from this. If you somehow you get rid of that completely and you start really coming down these corporations and taking more and more of their profits, these big CEOs
destroying the super PACs.
Yeah. But just business. I'm not talking specifically that, but just like making billionaires feel like they're losing more. They're not making as much money. They're going to head their businesses. They're going to go other places. They're going to find other countries that want them. I think they'll make deals other places to try to grow their to do what they were doing, or however they think is going to be the most profitable.
Okay.
They're going to go somewhere else, is my point. Now, like how that mechanism necessarily works, I couldn't begin to explain. Like there's too many variables there to like dive into any one of them at this moment. But just generally speaking, they're going to start looking for other places and other avenues to try to, that's just what it is. They have power, they have money, and they're going to try to maintain that. Now, like, should we be okay with that? I think there has to be some sort of balance between the two. Like, you need to have big businesses. You need to have big businesses making profits to drive innovation and technology to advance society as a whole. So as technology grows and businesses become bigger, the general population of the planet, the quality of life increases overall of the planet.
Okay.
Like, obviously there's going to be people that they're going to end up in shitty situations, but that's always
the better
gonna
medical
exist.
technology we have, the better technology we have.
Like, even like we're considered to be in the top, would be considered top 1% on the planet right now.
As far as the U.S.?
No. Like me and you, like our income level and way of living is considered to be top 1% or close to top 1% on the planet. I'm not talking the U.S. U.S. is a much more competitive place. So obviously, I think the U.S. is probably $80,000 or something like that. It'd be top 1% ish, give or take 20. I'm guessing. This is just a rough estimate off the top of my head. So it's a much more competitive place. But as far as the world goes, I think the number is something like $30,000.
The global median household income is about $10,000.
Okay, so what's top 1% of the planet is probably around $30,000, maybe $40,000 a year. So, most people in America, that work a full-time job.
Oh, the world's average salary is $1,480 per month, which is just less than $18,000 a year.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So there's good things to big business that help the planet as a whole, as a species, and us moving forward. But there just needs to be a balance, like between and it's a constant. I think it's a constant battle, and it will be for the foreseeable future. Ebb and flow of trying to find this balance. But there's going to be, power here, power there, and everybody wants a piece of it. And as an individual living on this giant ecosystem of power and money and everything else, you have to, if you want to be successful, you have to look at it as a whole and look at the games being played. And try your best to play them in a way that you feel morally, depending on your own morals and where those lines are, you have to play. If you want to be successful, you have to play. A little bit of luck is involved, obviously, but also you just have to learn the game and play the game in a way that hopefully fits within your own morals, I guess.
Do you think we can get to that place without making sure that we have politicians that properly represent us?
That's a very tricky question because what is properly? You know what I mean? It's a very gray kind of thing in my mind. And so it's hard to answer, and it's hard for I think it's really, most people really aren't mentally capable of really seeing a solution, a real solution, because just the complexity of it all, how when you start factoring in many of the things that the average person doesn't see and doesn't think about, I think it's a very, very complicated thing, and how you get there, I think there's always going to be some level of sacrifice somewhere.
Not laughing at you.
Yeah, but there's always going to be some level of sacrifice somewhere to get there.
No, I don't disagree with that. I'm going to catch up on chat real quick because we haven't in a long time. So I'm going back. Matt said, I never voted in my life. Fuck that shit. No matter what. Doesn't matter who's president. If the people who really run this country that force whoever is pretending to be in power. Duane said there's only 40% because people don't trust or don't care or are too worried about the bullshit of people trying to slander each other to get a chance to run a country. Mom said, or Dad said, I feel like we are entertaining a time of enlightenment and changes are happening. All of these disagreements are healthy for a democracy. Duane said, as I said before, I wish I knew or cared to know more about politics, but it all seems like bullshit and lies on both sides. Tom, you just don't like conflict. Dad said, we live in a country where I don't have to worry about saying so yet. November, something drastic did happen, and it did happen drastic. That's part of what we were touching on a little bit. Duane said, disagreements are healthy, I agree, but arguing due to both sides not respecting each other, that's disagreement turns into arguing and bullshit. Are you guys going to be long enough for me to come through? Dad said, everyday people hear about Citizens United, voter suppression, gerrymandering, and other things that are attacking our democracy for the first time. Duane said, Tom, come on my show. Duane said, I meant here. More people voted in the last midterm than in the previous general election, which tells you that people are waking up. People are starting to pay attention. So we hear, I don't know if that's local or abroad, but more people voted for congressional races this last term than the presidential race, because it's the congressional representatives that really matter to us.
I hope that was a good thing.
It's proven to be a great thing because there is a lot of shakeup in Congress. There are Republican congressional senators and Congress people that are siding with Democrats, and there are Democrats that are siding with Republicans, and to me it seems like it's because they're actually representing the people that voted them into that position in the first place. So it's exciting. It's real exciting to me.
I just want, regardless of party lines, I just want people to be sensible.
To me,
and understanding negotiation and doing it in a sensible way.
I want representatives to represent their constituents. If I was to run for Congress, you know that I'm very opinionated. I'm very strong in my own personal beliefs. But if it came down to it and I was elected a congressional representative, I would represent the people of my district, the people that voted me to represent that demographic of the country, that little piece of the pie. I would represent them. So I would figure out a way to have some sort of poll online that you log in with based on your voter registration information. So you can have one login to be able to enter any poll. So you can do each poll one time.
Yeah.
And if there's a controversial issue that I have to vote for on Congress floor or Senate floor of the House, I want my constituents to be able to log in, and I want to know where they stand so I can support the majority of my district.
That makes sense.
Whether or not I personally agree, I have no problem standing for the majority because I am truly for a democracy. Over my own personal beliefs and personal morals, democracy comes first. There's a lot of stuff going on in this country that I personally do not agree with. But if that's the way the majority of this country feels,
I think one of my big problems with the way laws are written and way that this happens is things get mixed in and voted on sometimes. Like we just had one, a thing got approved that there wasn't even a thing written for.
The marijuana law.
Yeah. So like, but I mean,
when marijuana was legalized in Washington, it was approved, legalized before any of the boundaries were set.
Yeah, so
that's ridiculous.
That's my. But then there's also things like thrown into other bills that they don't even know about, or how is that? It seems shady as fuck.
Well, that.
So like it's almost like it's like playing Russian roulette with somebody, but with a fully loaded gun except for one.
See, and I think a lot of the reason why we have so much divide in this country is because people are starting to pay attention more to those type of things and realizing, well, we have this bill for this, and this.
And there's so much
but you
going
have
by
this, and this that needs to be amended before we pass it, and then it becomes a negotiating thing. We're going to take this part out, but we're going to add this piece.
But
and
the mechanisms, I think the mechanisms in which how it works, like at one point in time, it may have made sense. The mechanisms don't make sense anymore. For today's pace and technology, they do not make sense. The mechanisms in which that we do that. It is silly. Like,
there's a lot of old stuff that needs to be updated. It's silly.
Yeah, I mean
today's system.
But I think more of anything, it's just the mechanisms like that bother me so much. Like how the laws get passed and like how things get snuck in and how
Duane,
people don't even know about stuff.
I got to argue with Duane for a minute. It says, I still believe for the people, by the people, but it's hard to know what representative really believes that. It's really not that hard if you go and pay a little bit of attention. I promise you. Now, I
don't trust them, but you can like listen to what they say they believe in.
You know, you don't. I mean, you don't really trust anybody when it comes down to it. And I'm not saying you personally. I'm saying we. We have become such a jaded society that it's hard to put trust into somebody that we don't.
Well, if you keep shitting in my cereal, I mean,
absolutely.
At one point, am I going to be like, there's no shit in my cereal?
Yeah, but so many people have shit in our cereal that we've come to a point where we don't even wait for somebody to shit in our cereal. We're just like, no, you can't touch my cereal. Don't touch the box. Stay out of my kitchen.
Is there even cereal in my shit box?
Exactly, and that's the mindset we've come to. Like,
but there's a reason for it.
Well, part of the reason is because as humans, we've become so shady to one another. As humans, we stab each other in the back on a regular fucking basis.
And I think it's
disgusting.
I think one of the things is technology has changed so fast that we haven't been able to fully adapt to it yet. So
that's fair.
Because, like, I mean, think about as generations and generations go by, if we go back 1,000 generations on our own timeline of like our own family tree, 1,000 generations back, do you think those people are going to be like anywhere like us at all? Really? like they'll have a face probably, you know, like
Right.
they'll look humanish. They'll look
1,000 years from now?
No, 1,000 years, 1,000 generations back.
Oh, okay.
So if we went back 1,000 of our generations, so let's just say a generation was 60 years.
Duane, I'm sorry, I don't mean to make it this blatant, but that is an ignorant statement. You're not paying attention to enough politicians to say that they're all full of bullshit. And I know that for a fact.
So that'd be back 60,000 years. I don't know why I couldn't do that in my fucking brain. That was an easy math equation. Anyway, now that I like looked at it, I'm like, I'm a fucking idiot. But so 60,000 years ago, like what were we like as human beings 60,000 years ago? Very different than we are now. Like how many over that time, like how slowly did we evolve? You know what I mean? Now look at the last 50 years. Like 50 years ago, we had slavery still. Right? Is that right? Or 60 years ago? Something along those lines. I mean, it wasn't that fucking long ago. And look at how much progress we've made technologically as a society. Like, we physically are at our absolute borderline limits of being able to keep up with growth socially, technologically, medically.
That's ignorant, Matt.
We're growing at such an insane pace that there no shit there's conflict. There is massive conflict right now because
and even politically, when this country was founded, there was a little bit of conflict, but we had a group of 12 people that all pretty much sat at a table like we sit at a table where they drafted out the outline for the United States.
How many years ago was that?
Well,
let's see. When were we founded?
It's about 250 years ago.
So 250. So like what? Maybe 4 or 5 generations ago.
Right.
This country was founded. That's nothing.
Right.
And now we're progressing at such an insane pace.
Right.
Like, I'm surprised we haven't had another fucking world war. In some aspects, like I'm glad we have.
It's not ignorant to believe that voting means something because without voting, people wouldn't be elected. Plain and simple.
But though the whole system may need to be changed, like voting, the way we think of voting now may need to be changed. Like we may need to go. Like, you know what might happen in another 150 years? We might get rid of voting the way we even think about it now. It might be done via computer. By implants in our brains.
Or like I said, everybody has one voter registration card. If you go to vote and somebody else has already voted under your voter registration, tough fucking titties. You should have kept your shit secure. You should have had a better password.
Well, what'll probably end up happening before that, or after that, or at some point, it'll be DNA based.
You're probably right.
And then somebody will learn to hack DNA. Because we can already edit it with CRISPR. Version 4 is already available.
Like we have blowers for breathalyzers now.
Well, yeah, but we can edit gene. Gene editing is already incredible. Like we can. There's already.
We can change that, Matt.
Like
we are changing that.
But like I think we're gonna get to a point where we may not even vote anymore. We may not even have. It may become done computer algorithmically. We may become another species. And that's actually probably pretty likely. That based on where we're trying to go.
I don't think the planet's going to last that long.
But no, that's what I think we're gonna become another species. We're gonna become like a computer hybrid in some sense. And how that goes will, I think, basically be determined over the course 50 years. In what direction we go.
A lot longer than that.
No, we won't get there for probably another 150 or so. But I think the direction that we may choose will be determined within the next 50 years. The direction which, and there may be a couple of directions we may take at the same time, and one may win out over another. We may subdivide into different species. Which
Ice Cream Boy said, "What the fuck did I just tune into?" Some deep thoughts.
And like, I mean, as far as any kind of evolution, we look at like evolution of like we can't deny that there is some, at least some form, whether a person believes that evolution we came from amoebas or not, but we can show like evolution within generations of small animals like flies or rats or whatever. We can show evolutional changes within these animals over a very short amount of time. We can scientifically show that, see it in a lab happen. So there's at least some sort of evolution happening. And we may go into, I think we could go into a couple of different species, depending, and I think that's probably pretty likely given where we are socially right now as a society, how much there's many different ideas and how we look at the world. And we'll probably go, there's going to be a certain number of people that are going to be like, well, I want to be the alpha robot, or let's just call it like
the humanoid.
Yeah, I want to be the humanoid robot, and I want to be, the cloud robot.
Well, and they probably can just go into the closet if they want to change their identity too.
I mean, yeah, maybe we might be able to download consciousness like our brains into a computer in the somewhat near future. I mean, we're still a ways away in computing technology, be able to compute that much data in a reliable way, but we're not really that far based on how fast progress is going, even in like genetic manipulation. Like the International Olympic Committee has been taking so if you compete in the Olympics or any level of competition in sports, for the last 10 years they've been taking genomes from the athletes for future testing purposes. Because if they think down the road that like you went to CRISPR and had your genes changed to be more bigger, faster, stronger, instead of taking steroids because the genes are more effective, but then where do you draw the line? Like, so we're going down a lot of really screwy paths as far as like, I think we have much bigger fish to fry in the near future. Like, we're not going to even be the same species.
Do you think you're going to be able to download your brain to a hard drive?
I don't know if in my lifetime, but I think.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Before we have flying cars.
We already have flying cars. They're called planes.
You know what I mean.
I think. Well, first off, I think it's a weird question because I think flying cars is.
Tires are so bad for our planet. Why don't we just make every vehicle have?
Well, I mean, we could just make better tires. We can make floating cars. How about not flying cars, but floating cars?
Hovercrafts type
Yeah.
thing? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess once like the levels of Tesla technology exponentially increase a few more generations to the point of like complete autonomousness where we're no longer driving, sure, we can fucking talk about flying cars and if they're reliable enough.
I'm just wondering, do you think we'll have what's gonna? It's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Generations from now, people are gonna have a conversation.
Well,
which came first? The brain.
I think flying cars are a lot easier to solve.
Or the flying car?
I think. Well, technically, we have technology to fly a car now. It's whether it's mass produced is a different situation, and also, I think it's easier to solve engineering wise. It's easier to solve a flying car, even GPS in 3-dimensional space, and cross communication among multiple objects in space through like a wireless high-speed internet or basically an internet connection. It may not be through specifically the internet, but it'll probably be a separate network. But that seems to be a lot easier to solve and really close to solve with current technologies. Making it that much more reliable, probably a couple of generations of computing technology down the road. But our brains are still far more complicated than like the closest thing we have to it would be right now is quantum computing, and until we can get quantum computing down to a smaller, more efficient size and more predictable, like because silicone computing technology is very close. I mean, it's pretty much at its limits now, has been for a little while. That's why we don't see the exponential growth in processing power anymore. The only way they process it differently is with creating more cores, creating different architectures altogether, or reorganization. But the pure power output and processing power of the same it hasn't really been increasing much because silicone is being limited.
Duane, you know we can't play that on here. Damn it. I'm tired of having to go through and edit shit in YouTube. That shit sucks.
No, I mean we can build flying cars now.
Yeah.
I mean there's already working there's already technically there's already operating flying cars. I mean there's not very many of them.
And there's still a lot of bugs to work out.
I'm not talking about flying cars in the sense of Back to the Future flying
Matt,
cars.
I wish that was true.
But even Elon doesn't think flying cars is that great of an idea. Because like the reward versus risk at
Ice Cream Boy.
the reward and risk now isn't it makes sense. Like Elon's underground tunnels make a little more sense than for populated areas than flying cars do.
Yeah.
But like
Seattle's working on one, I believe.
flying car
No, a tunnel.
tunnel. Okay.
Mass transit tunnel. It's called the E99 or something like that. But it's costing $5 billion more than anticipated after they started building.
I'm sure it's gonna. Digging tunnels of that size and magnitude are not cheap. It's super slow. It's a very costly thing.
Yeah.
Even Elon's talked about it with his tunnels, like trying to drive the cost down because of how time consuming and labor intensive and just all the things that needs to happen. And so coming up and digging tunnels in a more efficient and cost effective way is an engineering problem.
Right.
More than anything. I mean, so is flying cars, but just different types of engineering is involved. One's more mechanical, one's more electrical computing, really, is what it comes down to. Like, good morning, YouTube, or afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Good news, we're doing a weekly giveaway on our YouTube channel for Amazon gift cards. All you gotta do to enter is like the video, give us a subscribe, and comment below. The more comments you give us on the weekly videos for that week, we go Monday through Sunday, the more chances you have being entered, basically. So I'm going to go through whatever the most creative content is as far as your comments go, and I'll pick a winner, and I'll send you a gift card. It's pretty simple. Free money. Who likes free money? I know I do. Subscribe. Have a good day.